This is Wang, a recent master graduate student from McGill University. In this presentation, we provide an overview for our paper titled ArguLens, Anatomy of Community Opinions on Usability Issues Using Argumentation Models, to the 2020 CHI conference. This is a collaborative work with PhD student Deeksha Arya, Professor Jinghui from McGill University, Professor Nicole Novielli from University of Paris, and Professor Jinghui Cheng from Polytechnique Montreal. Collection of community feedback in open source software development is largely done by leveraging modern software engineering tools such as issue tracking systems. Issue tracking systems allowed open source software community members to create, discuss about, and manage various system and project-related tasks, including those related to usability. Particularly, usability issues are an important venue to capture and record discussion about user experience, opinions, desires, and justifications. However, because of the large amount of issues and comments posted daily to issue tracking systems, as well as the varied perspectives of different community members, contributors of open source software application projects face a major challenge in digesting the rich information embedded in issue tracking systems in order to determine the actual user needs and consolidate the diverse feedback. In this work, we directly target this challenge through ArguLens, a conceptual framework and machine learning-based technique leveraging an argumentation model to extract structured information from complex usability discussions. We formulate our research questions as shown on this slide. To understand how open source software communities argue about usability issues, we first conducted an argumentation analysis of comments in issue tracking systems. We carried out 3 main steps for argumentation analysis. First, we selected the top 5 most commented issues on Visual Studio Code project as the focus of the analysis. In total, these issues include 1,174 comments that covered a wide variety of information types and argumentation styles. We then adapted Tolman's model of argumentation to understand how each argument towards usability unfolds in issue discussions. To study the pattern of arguments, Tolman defined the 6 fundamental argumentative components as shown in the diagram. Let's have a quick look at each component. First, we have claim. Tolman describes it as the conclusions or viewpoints one tries to convince others to agree with. Second, we have ground. Tolman defines it as the fact used to play as the foundation for the claim. Third, acting as bridges between ground and claim, we have general and hypothetical statements. Tolman defines such as warrant. Backing, qualifier, and rebuttal are 3 other components that support the main argumentation. Tolman's model focuses on documents containing well-informed explicit arguments. To adapt it to informal arguments made in usability issue discussions, we made some adjustment to Tolman's model. These changes include first, merging warrant and ground components, and annotating any statements acting as a bridge between user request and concrete facts as warrant. Second, removing rebuttal as an argument component and instead identifying the standpoint of any comments in the discussion as support or against with respect to the original claim. And third, excluding qualifier component. Before moving forward to our argumentation analysis, let's take a look at how the adapted Tolman's model in ArguLens can be used to distill useful information from usability arguments in the issue tracking systems. Here, several open source community members are debating about whether to bring tabs into VS Code. People taking the support standpoint stands on the fact that tabs are the default ways of work in many text editors and IDEs. They further argued that this fact necessitates addition of tabs because people are already used to it. On the other hand, people who take against the standpoint cited the problem of tabs overload as a ground, and further argued that the absence of tabs can actually be an attractive feature. With such anatomy of community opinions captured by ArguLens, open source contributors and other community members can easily differentiate and synthesize First, the concrete request made by community members captured in claim. Second, facts about current system that community care about captured in ground. And third, personal opinions about why a fact is relevant and important captured in warrant. To help ArguLens achieve these promises, we performed our argumentation analysis on 2 levels. On the first level, we coded each sentence as either argumentative, which denotes that the sentence had a persuasive connotation, or non-argumentative, which includes all non-persuasive sentences. On the second level, we identified the characteristics of all the argumentative sentences based on 2 independent dimensions as demonstrated earlier, namely components and standpoints. Please read our paper for quantitative coding results. Here we discuss some insights gained from the coding process. First, non-argumentative comments constitute a large portion of the discussion and create difficulties for developers to retrieve useful information. Some of these non-argumentative examples include +1 or -1 alone in sentences. Others include community conversation and expressing of appreciation. We identify 11 concrete subcategories of non-argumentative code. These comments usually include content that are non-persuasive in nature and less relevant to community's need. They create difficulties for developers to retrieve useful information. Second, warrant represents the majority component in argumentative comments and usually includes speculated use cases and personal opinions. For example, some participants felt that they missed the ability to view and manipulate file indexes in the process of transitioning from using tabs to working file. Others shared that when working with debug or search, they really missed tabs. This insight echoes with the previous observations that open source software discussions about usability are usually influenced by personal opinions and experiences. Next, we observed that while all the issues were initially created for requesting specific changes in the existing interaction design, the discussion did not bound to the topic of the original post. Instead, open source software discussions content develop and broaden to include money-related topics. For examples and more details, please read our paper. Annotated issue discussion threads for argumentation are essential for building intelligent tools supporting high-level reasoning tasks for issue reporter, triager, assignees, and various stakeholders, including argument navigation, retrieval, and trade-off analysis towards usability. However, manually labeling the comments is time-consuming, especially when the discussions become lengthy and issue repository gets large. In this section, we explore the potential of using automated techniques in ArguLens to reduce the annotation effort and address the second research question. The complete process includes 3 main steps. From left to right, we have data preprocessing, feature extraction, and argument extraction. In terms of experiment design, we focused on 3 classification tasks and evaluate the impact of 2 independent variables. First, the machine learning model to adopt with 2 levels, and second, the feature set to use as the input for the machine learning models with 6 levels. These include both textual features and conversational features. More detailed information about experiment setup and models or feature set we explored can be found in our paper. To evaluate the performance of all configurations, we adopted the standard nested stratified 5-fold cross-validation. The performance of the models are evaluated using average precision recall and F1 measure. Our result indicates that using TF-IDF features yield the highest and satisfiable F1 scores in all 3 tasks. One possible explanation about the superior performance with the TF-IDF features is that they are suitable at capturing the domain-specific knowledge from the text, which may be a strong indicator for their argumentation roles. Finally, to better understand the ArguLens approach from the perspectives of experienced open source software practitioners, we performed a within-subject user study with 8 frequent users of GitHub issues and answered the 3rd research question. First, methods we applied We recruited 5 males and 3 females from personal contacts. All participants had experience with GitHubs and its issue features, having contributed to at least one project on the platform. They all had used VS Code as a text or code editor. Some used it on a daily basis at the time of the study. Each user study took about 1.5 hours to complete. During the study, we asked the participants to review 4 issue discussion threads that we analyzed in argumentation analysis section with 4 different representation conditions. Please refer to our paper for more details. While reviewing each issue, the participants were asked to, first, describe the main topics discussed, second, identify the potential positive and negative impacts on users when issue is fixed, and third, decide whether the issue should be fixed. We also encouraged the participants to think aloud during these tasks. Given the qualitative nature of the study, for results, we focused on reporting the themes emerged from participants' feedback. First, participants appreciated having the possibility to hide or gray out the non-argumentative comments for the purpose of determining the community opinions when reviewing the issues. Second, participants found the anatomy of argument provided by ArguLens useful. These representations did not only help participants to be focused with diverse opinions, but also help them to assess the impact and synthesize information. Finally, although the decomposed arguments provide useful supports for issue review, some participants disliked the representation because of its conceptual and visual complexity. This finding indicates that exploring an effective design of tools that leverage the ArguLens techniques is an important future work. Reaching towards the end of this presentation, we would like to discuss some limitations of our work, as well as the road to future work or applications this study paves. Due to the effort required for the task of manual coding, we performed an in-depth analysis on only 5 usability issues from one open-source software project. Future work extending this analysis to other usability issues and projects would allow establishing its external validity. Additionally, our work focused on usability issues because of their increasing importance in open-source software applications and the overwhelming challenges involved to address them. Although we speculate that ArguLens can be applicable to other types of open-source software issues prone to extended community discussions, for example, privacy and security, as well as other types of community-driven platforms, these applications require future work. Next, the stimuli used in our user study provided only a basic representation of the embedded information and did not focus on offering a sophisticated visual and interaction design. As mentioned before, exploring an effective design of tools that leveraging the ArguLens techniques is an important future work. Finally, although our machine learning solutions performed well in certain tasks, the performance was less desirable in others. Particularly, its performance is sensitive to the amount of training data, indicating that extended manual labeling effort is still necessary to achieve its utility in practice. Furthermore, given the current precision and recall achieved by the argument extraction tasks, human-in-the-loop method is necessary to support the ArguLens technique. Future work may also explore combining supervised and unsupervised approaches to further reduce the manual effort. For the final section of this presentation, we would like to highlight some of the contributions we made through this study. First, we proposed the ArguLens, a conceptual framework that leveraged an argumentation model to support comprehension and consolidation of open-source software community opinions on usability issues. Additionally, we created a corpus of 5,123 quotes annotated with the argumentation framework as the foundation for ArguLens. Next, by leveraging supervised machine learning on this corpus, we evaluated various argument extraction techniques. Our best performing classifier achieved satisfying results, paving the way to implementation of semi-automated approaches and tools. Third, our study with experienced issue tracking system users revealed that ArguLens can help practitioners get focused and retrieve the relevant information when reviewing issue discussions. In sum, as an important step forward, ArguLens can accelerate building effective methods and tools that aim to improve open-source software usability. Finally, please read our paper and do not hesitate to contact us if you have any questions or comments.